Avis Beatrice Mooney was born on October 26, 1927. She was white with brown hair, brown eyes, was 5'3" and 140 pounds. When she went missing, she was 33 years old. One source states that she had a scar on her abdomen and a birthmark about a quarter-sized and dark brown on her hip. She is reported to have suffered from an undiagnosed mental condition, potentially being bipolar disorder. Another source states that Avis may have had a hysterectomy and/or appendectomy scars. The last time she was seen was on September 1st, 1961, in Maybank, Texas. There is very little known about her case and what caused her disappearance. On the Texas DPS website, it states that her case is considered endangered, with foul play possible. It should be pointed out before we go any further that Avis went missing from a town that is located in the northern part of Texas. According to her profile on the Charlie Project, it stated that Avis's husband had told their 2 children that he had come home and found a note from her saying that she was leaving him. Apparently, there had been marital problems between the 2, of which they fought frequently, including physically. Avis had left her husband before, to which her family didn't question her husband's story at first. Avis's family hadn't heard from her since the time she had disappeared. Then her mother got a letter from her. Avis's mother wasn't sure, though, whether it was actually written by her daughter, and felt like the handwriting in the note resembled Avis's husband's, as opposed to Avis herself. There was a possible sighting of Avis in Hughes Springs, Texas, in the early 70s, though it had not been confirmed. Hughes Springs is not very far from Maybank, where she originally disappeared. There is a drawn age progression of what Avis may have looked like in her old age. Despite there being a thread for her on Web Sleuths, there isn't any information to extract from there. The whole case is scant, and there is just so very little information. There have been 10 cases compared to hers, of which, of course, all have been excluded, though none have compared Avis's DNA to that of any sort of Jane Doe from the state of Texas. There is a profile for her on Find a Grave, which was created in 2020. There is no new information for her, nor any family members linked. As a whole, there is very little known about this case or what background Avis had. Though she had children, it's unknown what their names were or even the name of her husband. But through some research myself, I was able to find that information. It seems that Avis's husband was named Marion Howard Mooney. Avis's maiden name was Harris. Marion Howard Mooney was born on March 14th, 1926, in Archer, Texas. His parents were Robert Elmer Mooney and Ora Mae Galloway. Robert Elmer Mooney died on July 30th, 1969, at the age of 69 years old, from arteriosclerosis. He was buried at Judson Cemetery in Cayuga, Texas. Marion Mooney's mother was, of course, named Ora Mae Galloway. She was born on February 13th, 1901, in Tennessee Colony, Texas. She passed away on November 30th, 1969, from generalized arteriosclerosis, and she is also buried at Judson Cemetery. Interestingly, the year before Avis Mooney went missing, her husband's sister, Agnes Ardelia Henson, née Mooney, passed away. Her death certificate stated that she passed away from breast cancer, of which she had been dealing with for the past year, and it had metastasized in the past 6 months. She was 36 years old. Agnes was buried at Buffalo Cemetery in Buffalo, Texas. Her husband, Willie, passed away in 1971 at the age of 58. The couple had at least one child, Robert Charles Henson, who passed away on July 9, 1986. It is unknown how he died, and he was 44 years old. Marion Mooney was drafted into the military on March 14, 1944, of which he served in the U.S. Navy. He was an SC-2 and served in World War II. At some unknown point in time, he married Avis Beatrice Harris. The couple had a son together on August 2, 1950, who they named William Ralph Mooney. 5 years later, they had a daughter on August 21st, 1955, who they named Laura Ann Mooney. 6 years later, Avis would disappear forever. Despite there being an entry for a Bonnie Irene Mooney on Family Search, there is no information provided to this person's birth or death date. I have my doubts as to whether this person was really a child to Marion and Avis. On August 10th, 1974, Marion Mooney remarried to a Betty J. McLaughlin. This is the person linked to Marion's Find a Grave profile. Both were each other's second spouses, staying together up until Marion's death in 1999. Betty Jane passed away on November 26, 2008. Her Find a Grave profile says 2006, though her headstone states 2008. In 2014, Marion and Avis's son, William, passed away. Since there were no unidentified bodies from the state of Texas compared to Avis's DNA, I looked on NamUs to see if there were any potential matches. The oldest Jane Doe that appeared was a woman who was found on January 1st, 1967 in Pearland, Texas. There is very little information to go on with this case, since the only details listed are that she was white and only had partial skeletal remains found. I am unsure if this could be a potential match, though, since Avis was from the Dallas area and Pearland is south of Houston, and this is a huge difference in geography. The second oldest Jane Doe is a woman that was found on September 14th in Houston, Texas. While the location is different from where Avis resided, this Jane Doe has more information that could make her a potential match. Jane was estimated to have been between 30 and 50 years old, and she was 5'4". If we remember from earlier, Avis was 5'3". Jane's body was recovered from a drainage ditch as only her skeletal remains. A third Jane Doe was found on July 19th, 1976 in Colorado County, Texas. She is estimated to have been between 27 to 43 years old, white, 5'2", with brown hair. Jane's skeletal remains were found, which were wearing gray flannel pants, a pink chiffon blouse, a size 13 shirt with Sears Junior Bazaar as the label, a bra, underwear, and one lace-up sandal. Once again, the location is far from where Avis lived near Dallas, but the details were interesting to me nonetheless. With that, what do you think happened to Avis? There's very little to go off of without more background story and what kind of person Avis was. I personally have my doubts as to whether she had a mental illness or not. Not because I don't believe in them, which I do, but she disappeared, though, during a time period where mental health was greatly stigmatized. I do wonder if this is just some sort of cover up to the story, but of course, this is something we don't know. I find it interesting that there was the claim Avis was spotted in Hugh Springs, which of course is not very far from where she lived in Maybank. Technically, it could have been possible she was close due to the proximity of the towns, but this is more than likely just a rumor to thwart any suspicion on her husband. I find her husband to be quite suspicious, especially since the letter that Avis wrote to her mother looked like Marion's handwriting. Even though Marion's surrounding family died of health issues, of which his parents died after Avis disappeared, I still can't help but kind of find it weird that Marion's older sister passed away, and then Avis went missing, and then his parents died, all in the same decade. Unfortunately, though, I don't think we will ever know what really happened to Avis. I have my suspicions that he killed her, especially since there aren't any comparisons to her case with Jane Doe's from the state of Texas, of which she went missing.